Hello and welcome. I'm Jon Garlick, and I'm here with Sheriff Matthew Wade, and this is Calhoun County's Most Wanted. Good to see you again,
Always
Sheriff.
good to be on the show, John. I tell you what, I love this weather.
Oh my gosh,
I love that
do
they've
too.
never let us down on arresting people either.
Let's take a look at the count.
2 arrests this week brings our count up to 5,117 people arrested, all because you were willing to help us out. We cannot do it alone. Thank you for helping.
Always thank the citizens and thank the Sheriff's Office for being responsive.
Absolutely.
So, weather is changing. It's beautiful.
It's been a great, lovely weather. It's been great football weather this past weekend in football. If you're a football fan, was lots of ups and downs and almost and final victories, and it's just a good time of the year. I mean, the coolness in the air in the evening, it just makes you want to do good things.
Most people are really curious as to, are you Auburn or Alabama? I know everybody asks me on
A good
the street.
politician never says anything about that. So. Well,
We do know what your favorite grocery store is.
Foodland's my favorite grocery store.
And you probably don't watch Shop 24, which is okay, but we've been promoting you for mayor of Alexandria.
Mayor of Alexandria, all right, yeah.
But you always have to have plans, right?
Hey, you always have to have plans, and I love the community I live in.
Well, and we have plans, so stay with us because we're going to be back with the first half of the lineup and a really important guest here on Calhoun County's Most Wanted. Welcome to this week's edition of Calhoun County's Most Wanted. The first half of our lineup brought to you by Speedy Bail Bonds. Their number 256-235-9090. First up in our first half of our lineup, Joseph Holloway. Mr. Holloway, last known to be living in Talladega. He's wanted for a probation revocation on obstruction of justice by using a false ID. And this is Elizabeth West. Miss West, last known to be living in Center. She's wanted on a probation violation for receiving stolen property first. And take a look at Kobe Fall. Mr. Fall, last known to be living in Anniston. He's wanted on a probation violation for receiving stolen property first. And this is Corey Davis. Mr. Davis, last known to be living in Oxford. He's wanted for a probation violation for obstruction of justice by using a false identity, failure to appear on possession of controlled substance, possession of drug paraphernalia, and possession of marijuana second. And take a look at Eleanora Williams. Miss Williams, last known to be living in Anniston. She's wanted for failure to appear on possession of marijuana first. And meet Amanda Johnson. Miss Johnson, last known to be living in Anniston. She's wanted for failure to appear on theft of property third. And this is Keithris Morgan. Mr. Morgan, last known to be living in Water Valley, Mississippi. He's wanted for failure to appear on trafficking in cocaine and possession of marijuana first. And meet Donna Blount. Miss Blount, last known to be living in Oxford. She's wanted for failure to appear on distribution of a controlled substance. And that's it for the first half of our lineup. Stay tuned for the second half later in the show. Welcome back. We hope you saw somebody in that half of the lineup that you might know where they are. And if you do, call Sheriff Matthew Wade. You call, he hauls. We are here with Susan Shipman, Executive Director of Second Chance. And this is October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
Absolutely.
And I think we talked about that a couple weeks ago. But
we did.
We need to talk about it right now in the middle of the month.
Let's do.
And you have something here.
I do. We have started a new tradition at Second Chance where we provide these survival kits for law enforcement officers to not everybody every year, but what they are is little pieces of candy that are in a little bag, and they have this list with them. And for instance, lifesavers to remind you of the many times you have been one. Hershey's Kiss to show our love for you, Smarties to give wisdom for those split-second decisions. It's just a gesture on our part for law enforcement in the areas where we serve so that we can let law enforcement know how much we appreciate the work that they do.
And there's even color-coded, so the color purple means something.
It does. Purple is the color that's used for domestic violence awareness and for other awarenesses as well. But we use it for domestic violence awareness, and during the month of October we have a lot more activities than usual. We kicked off with the cookout at our offices, and we have several other events coming up. The soonest one is on Friday, which is Pets Against Domestic Violence. If you have critters that can behave properly in public and you want to bring them along to have their picture made, we post them up on our Facebook page, and it's really cute. It's a fun day.
So any critter?
Any critter that can behave itself properly.
You know, you should get all your canines to go down and get their picture taken.
We probably should. I'm not sure, you know, some of them are sensitive. One of them is anyway.
Sensitive. A lot of deputies are sensitive.
A lot of deputies are sensitive. That's true. They're
My
supposed to
dog-
be tough, but they are sensitive.
My dogs are not well behaved enough to they're not coming.
We have some that are well behaved enough. We have one that, you know, but we have several that are in schools,
Okay.
and they're just as much a mascot and a therapy dog as they do other things as well.
Lovely.
Well, that sounds like a temporary assignment for Friday.
That we need to make that happen.
That would be
Sure.
fun.
Yes.
So
yes.
when and
Okay.
where are
It's
those?
it's at our offices at 613 Wilmer Avenue, and it's from 11 until 1, I think.
Okay.
Yes, 11. I'm saying that with conviction. 11 until 1.
If it wasn't, it is
It
now.
is now, exactly,
Yeah, that's
exactly. And I'm donning our newest design for Domestic Violence Awareness Month T-shirts, and so we'll have some of those available if anyone is interested in them at the Domestic Violence Awareness Walk, which is on the 25th,
Okay.
5:30 at Centennial Memorial Park. We will have a speaker as yet to be determined, and it's a good time, and it's a good demonstration of the public's support of what we do.
And where will you be walking?
We'll walk down a few blocks, cross over to the west side of Quintard, back up into the park, and we've got APD will be there to block traffic for us so nobody will be run over.
That's
Which is a good,
positive.
better
That's a
event.
positive
yes.
As
thing.
Forrest Gump
Yes.
would say, one less thing.
One less thing,
one less
exactly.
thing.
Absolutely.
So, before we go to the break, we have a couple minutes here. Remind everybody what Second Chance does and what services are available.
Yes, Second Chance is the domestic and sexual violence services provider for a 6-county area: Calhoun, Cleburne, Cherokee, Etowah, Randolph, and Talladega. We have emergency shelter for domestic violence victims that are fleeing abusive situations, we also serve sexual assault victims and do hospital accompaniments if they are in the hospital for a forensic exam or treatment following a sexual assault. We will be there to assist with the nurse if the nurse needs some help, if some running out of the room has to be done because the nurse can't leave the room once the kit has started. And so we also provide emergency shelter for sexual assault victims that don't think it's safe for them to go home if the bad guy's still out there or girl is still out there on the streets and hasn't been apprehended and the assault occurred at their home or the bad person knows where they live. They can come into our emergency shelter and we can work out some other type of housing for them.
So how do people get in touch with you in all of those situations?
Our hotline number is 800-650-6522. That works throughout the state of Alabama. It rings at the shelter program that's closest to where you're calling from. If I'm in Montgomery and I dial the number, it's going to ring at the Family Sunshine Center. If I'm in Gadsden and I dial the number, it's going to ring at our emergency shelter.
And anybody that's watching the show, as always, if you need services like that and you don't know where to go, call your local law enforcement agency and specifically ask for Second Chance. We can be able to help you get with that, or we can help you any way that we can. It doesn't necessarily mean you call law enforcement that we have to arrest somebody or we have to do X or Y or Z. If you call and say, hey, I need help, might be in a domestic violence situation, I've heard of this thing called Second Chance, can you help me get there? It would be our honor to help you get there and provide whatever services are needed. So every situation is different.
Absolutely.
And
Thank
of
you.
course, in the heat of the moment, if law enforcement is on scene, either at the hospital or on scene,
And that's a
your
lot of what
deputies
these
recommend.
survival packets are for, is to remind the officers not only that they're appreciated, but it also reminds them that Second Chance is there and available and willing. As law enforcement officers, we get on scenes and we have these problems and people expect us to fix everything from tires to domestic violence. I mean, it's just, you're here, you fix it. And a lot of times we need people that know what they're doing. So we're not fix it all, so having
Yes.
somebody that we can call like Second Chance is one of the first things that I want to do is I want to get them to somebody who knows what they're doing.
And the same with law enforcement. Sometimes we need law enforcement to take care of a situation because we don't have the authority and we don't usually wear guns on our hips. So, yeah, it's a great partnership and we thank you for that.
Well, it's a necessary partnership. And law enforcement has multiple roles these days, and one of those roles is almost a social work role, and you need resources, and that's the beauty of this relationship, but there are several others where there are resources.
We are social workers. We just have a different end of it, and law enforcement is a social
In the
work
people
kind-
business.
We're in the people business.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, whatever we can do to help people. Sometimes helping people is taking somebody off the street. Sometimes helping people is changing their tire. It's just an arrangement of things that it takes to be a law enforcement officer. It's not about just writing speeding tickets or putting people in jail.
Serve and protect.
Serve and protect.
Serve and protect. And in the last few seconds before we take our break, it's a good promo for new jobs at the Sheriff's Office.
Absolutely. The Sheriff's Office, this economy is pretty tough, but we just got a commission just gave us a pay raise. So starting pay for a deputy with no experience is like $18, $14 an hour. Corrections officers, which we're in desperate need of, is $15.95 an hour. And you get a raise every year. You get good insurance and benefits, and you get the fulfillment of doing something that matters. And what matters is helping people. That's what we were put on this earth for, is to be around other people and to help each other, make it through life, and have an enjoyable life. So do something that matters.
So if you're looking for a new career, law enforcement may be right up your alley. Contact the Sheriff's Office, 236-6600. Ask to speak to the Sheriff or one of his executives. Get an application and get that ball rolling. We're going to take a break, have the second half of the lineup, and be back with Susan Shipman and talk more about Second Chance here on Calhoun County's Most Wanted. Welcome to the second half of our lineup. This half brought to you by Sonny's Bail Bonds at 256-913-9759. First up in the second half here, Jasmine Fleming. Miss Fleming, last known to be living in Lincoln. She's wanted on a probation violation for possession of a controlled substance. This is Jeremy Tucker. Mr. Tucker, last known to be living in Jacksonville. He's wanted on a probation violation for possession of a controlled substance. Take a look at Robert Benefield. Mr. Benefield, last known to be living in Cove Springs, Florida. He's wanted for failure to appear on domestic violence second assault. And this is Olivia Leal. Miss Leal, last known to be living in Oxford. She's wanted for a motion to revoke bond on a possession of a controlled substance and use in possession of drug paraphernalia. And take a look at Raymond Franklin. Mr. Franklin, last known to be living in Texas City, Texas. He's wanted for failure to appear in delivery and sale of drug paraphernalia. And that's it for our lineup this week. If you have any information on these people, please give Crime Stoppers a call. That number, 1-833-251-7867. Welcome back. We hope you saw somebody in that half of the lineup. If you do, call the Crime Stoppers number, call the Sheriff's Office directly. You call, they haul. We are here again with Susan Shipman, Executive Director of Second Chance. This is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And, domestic violence is it's a hard call. It's a dangerous call for law enforcement. It's a terrible time.
And it affects a lot of people.
Right.
It doesn't affect just poor people or certain. It affects anyone and everyone.
Equal opportunity.
Equal opportunity.
Absolutely.
And let's just face it, marriage and relationships are hard.
They're complicated.
They're complicated. They're hard, and they take work.
But sometimes work's not going to fix a relationship when there's power and control.
That's right.
And ownership, and then a change needs to be made. And we know that 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men will experience domestic violence in their lifetime. So everybody knows someone who is either in a situation now, has been in the past, or will be in the future. Those numbers are huge. If you were dealing with a virus, that's epidemic, that's pandemic. When you look at the rest of the world and the situations with power and control in other countries. And so, we're working just like you real hard to put ourselves out of business. And until we do that, we will have emergency shelter available. We will have free counseling. We will have support groups. We have a lot of services that don't have anything to do with the emergency shelter. Not everybody needs emergency shelter, and that's not suitable for everyone. So we have some other housing programs that can assist that don't involve being in a communal living situation. We have transitional housing, and then we have a program that helps with past bills and with deposits for a new life.
So, a lot of people, when you talk about domestic violence, they have a vision in their head that's obviously very violent, very, very physical. But it doesn't start that way, does it?
And it's not always that way, and it doesn't always even end up that way. You know, domestic violence is so individual that it may be verbal abuse and nothing further than that. But the verbal abuse has a psychological effect.
I had a call this morning on the way to the show. Ran a little late to get here, and it was because I was having a conversation with somebody, and they were talking about, you know, their spouse withholding the debit card and taking the phone away from them and things of that nature. And I explained to them control, and that is a form of domestic violence.
Absolutely.
You know, there's problems there. It hasn't gotten physical, but there's problems that needs to be addressed, needs to be fixed. If not, it's probably going to get worse. What worse is doesn't necessarily mean physical, but it's going to get worse in all aspects.
Right, and sometimes it's bang, bang, you're dead, and we don't really know that there's going to be, you know, how it's going to get from here to there, but it can. And when a perpetrator of domestic violence tells their partner that if you leave me, I will kill you,
You should take
they're
that very,
serious
they're
about
serious.
that. You know,
Yes.
it happened in my family, and really didn't have any doubt that that was actually going to occur because anyway, you have to pay attention and you have to know that that's real.
So what are the subtle red flags, if there are any, to somebody who's maybe they're in that, I'm in love, it's just the beginning of a relationship, and what are some of those?
You know, in love is wonderful, but it shouldn't come with except fors and the cell phone thing, the taking the paycheck, the not giving one access to the funds, the household funds, the no, you can't go see your mother today. Didn't you just see your mother 2 weeks ago? Not allowing the victim to leave the house. Isolation is the best tool that a perpetrator of domestic violence has, because if I'm locked down, then nobody knows what's going on with me and nobody can help me.
Right. And so even before they get to cohabitating, you know, teenagers, young adults that are in a relationship, what might there be as a red flag that, you know, on the third or fourth date maybe?
You don't need to take my cell phone from me and see who I've been texting. Why is that any of your business? That's a big, big, big deal that perps are watching social media and want control beginning right there. And, you know, young girls are often, and men, happy to be in their first relationship, but if it starts down this road, there's an awful lot of other options out there that are not going to try and have that kind of control over one's life. And, you know, people that are raised in households where there is domestic violence are more likely to become perpetrators or victims of domestic violence themselves, because that's what they know, and you don't know what you don't know, and you only know what you do know. And
Right. So, Sheriff, from the law standpoint, domestic violence laws changed a few years ago. So where are we with the various types, and when should somebody recognize that maybe a law's been broken?
Well, you know, everybody's going to have fights in a relationship. You know, when I say fights, I mean figuratively, not literal fights. But, you know, if you're in a relationship, you and your spouse or your important other, whoever's going to have disagreements, and there's going to be times when you get mad at each other. But when you take those fights into a different level of actually threatening violence, you know, violence doesn't have to be necessarily hitting the person. You can hit the wall next to them, or you can start destroying property in a way to make them scared. That there's domestic violence harassment. There's domestic violence assault. One of the biggest ones we've had lately is domestic violence strangulation.
felony, we like that
It's a
law.
felony. It's a new law, and it's a felony. If you put your hands around the neck of your spouse and choke them during a fight, that's called domestic violence strangulation, and that is a felony. And
Or your girlfriend,
or your girlfriend,
boyfriend,
yeah, anybody
or
that
your
you
ex-girlfriend,
that's
or
right.
your ex-boyfriend.
You've had that intimate relationship with them, and you know the best thing to do is when you're mad. People say and do things when they're mad they don't mean, and once you say or do it, you can't take it back. So, having the work on the things of I'm mad now, I think I'll just be quiet, or go somewhere else for a while till I'm unmad. You know, we teach about what's domestic violence. The one thing we don't teach our young people is how to deal with relationships, how to deal with individual conflict. In today's world of the internet, you can fire off anything you want, say what you want. There's no threat of anything happening to you, and that's really, in my opinion, has caused our society to be more coarse with each other, and not being, and that we've taken away the ability to learn how to deal with individual conflict in a proper, appropriate manner. We're not teaching that, and we should.
So, any emotion's good so long as you don't hurt yourself, hurt somebody else, or break stuff that isn't yours. Susan, thank you for being on the show. We'll try to get by on Friday with the doggies. The sheriff will have his doggies there. I don't think I'll bring mine, but maybe I can make it by this time and say hi.
Excellent.
But thank you so much.
Thank you.
And you guys stay tuned with us. We're going to be back with the Crime Stoppers portion and the crazy criminal here on Calhoun County's Most Wanted. And welcome to the Crime Stoppers portion of our show, where we ask your help on the following cases. First up, on July 7th, an unknown white male entered Truist Bank in Alexandria. Male used a stolen identity and withdrew a large amount of money. Please help in identifying this suspect. And between August 12th and August 26th, a wood-burning stove, 4 mud tires, 2 deer cameras, all were taken from a home on Seven Springs Road in Jacksonville. And that's it for your Crime Stoppers cases. If you know anything about these cases, please call Crime Stoppers. That number, 1-833-251-7867.
Stupid! You're so stupid!
It's crazy criminal time.
This was a little different.
Different is good.
But if we put it up there, this is Reuben. Reuben, I think it's Zaret.
Is that right?
No, we'll go with it. Reuben lives in Chicago. So,
that toddle in town.
Do what?
That toddle in town.
Yeah, there you go. So he gets a hankering one day to go into a muffler shop and when he goes in there, he pulls out a pistol and demands money.
Oh.
So he's doing a robbery.
Okay.
Well, the manager wasn't at the muffler shop, and all the money was in a safe.
Good place.
So Reuben said, you know what? They explained that to Reuben. So Reuben says, you know what? Here's my name and number. Give me a call when the manager gets in, and I'll come back. You can't make this up. So when Reuben left, the muffler shop people called the Chicago Police Department, who came out and said, go ahead and call him back and tell Reuben that the manager's here. So they did. They called Reuben, and he comes strolling back in and to be greeted by Chicago Police Department, where a short foot pursuit and shootout occurred.
Oh.
But they were able to catch Reuben without hurting him, and anybody else got hurt. And so Reuben won't be doing any robberies for any time soon. So it's a good time to tell kids, if you use drugs, that's the kind of decisions you make. So it's a good time to say, don't use drugs.
That's proactive policing at its best.
That's right.
If you're thinking about breaking the law,
just don't.
Well, call in advance and say,
call in advance.
Hey, Sheriff, I'm thinking about going down to the gas station and hold them up. Probably be about 2 o'clock this afternoon. If you want to meet me there.
Is that time good for us?
Is that convenient?
We'll let you know if the time's good for us, and we'll meet you there.
I think that will change the way the whole world operates if we would just do that.
It would be more beneficial for us as well. So.
It would, I think so. Well, all right, so.
Poor Reuben.
We appreciate you tuning in this week. We hope to see you again next week, but not in the lineup here on Calhoun County's Most Wanted.